Across 5 centuries, an immutable pattern has consumed 3 global hegemons. Today, in 2026, the United States is tracing this identical trajectory, stage by stage, decision by decision, almost as if adhering to a predefined script that has led to catastrophe every single time before. In 1590, the Spanish Empire commanded unparalleled global wealth. Its vaults held half the world's gold and silver. Its military dominated the continent, and its currency, the real, was universally trusted. 80 years later, Spain lay bankrupt, a secondary power from which it would never truly rebound. By 1914, Britain ruled the largest empire humanity had ever seen. The sun truly never set on its vast territories. The pound sterling functioned as the global reserve currency. Yet, within 4 decades, the empire had dissolved, its currency shattered, reduced to America's junior partner. In 1991, the Soviet Union stood as the other global titan. Nuclear arsenals, vast geopolitical influence, and satellites traversing the cosmos. It vanished in 900 days, not through conventional warfare, but from an internal economic implosion. 3 empires, 3 global supremacies, 3 complete collapses, each conforming to an identical sequence of events. And here's the truly chilling implication. The United States has already navigated 5 of these 7 stages. We are not merely approaching this pattern, we are deeply embedded within it. This is the account of how empires perish, why they invariably believe themselves immune, and why the cold mathematics of history suggests America's turn is imminent. The pace of this unfolding is accelerating beyond what most are willing to acknowledge. Before dissecting the pattern, it is crucial to understand the practical reality of imperial collapse, not its theoretical description. What occurs when a superpower dies? Imperial collapse rarely begins with external invasion or military defeat. Its genesis lies in economic exhaustion. The empire extends its reach far beyond its capacity for sustenance. Military installations in 150 nations, conflicts on multiple fronts, undeliverable promises, and debts that cannot be serviced. Initially, this decline remains imperceptible. The national currency retains its facade of strength. Military forces continue to secure victories. The government maintains its rhetoric of assurance. But beneath this surface, structural foundations are fracturing. Resources are misallocated. Productive capacity erodes, and the most capable minds seek egress. Then, the acceleration commences. Allies begin to hedge their geopolitical bets. Adversaries probe for weakness. Trade partners seek alternative financial arrangements. The global reserve currency status slowly unravels. Suddenly, the very advantages that forged imperial power transmute into profound vulnerabilities. Your currency, once universally sought, floods back home. Your military, globally dispersed, becomes an unsustainable burden. Your promises, once backed by unassailable strength, become hollow pronouncements. This is not conjecture. This is the documented reality for Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union. Their demise was predicated on precisely the same decisions we observe today. They mistook temporary power for permanence. They overextended their military reach. They systematically debased their currency. And they rejected undeniable realities until the collapse became an irreversible certainty. Let us examine the concrete manifestation of this pattern, 3 times, in exacting detail. Following Columbus's 1492 voyages, Spain rapidly ascended to become the world's first true global power. Through the conquest of the Aztec and Inca civilizations, it seized control of the richest gold and silver deposits ever discovered. By 1550, Spanish galleons transported approximately 200 tons of silver annually. By 1600, this volume exceeded 400 tons per year. Spain effectively controlled Europe's monetary supply. The Spanish real, denominated in this vast wealth, functioned as the undisputed global reserve currency. Every nation coveted Spanish silver. This is where the pattern solidifies. A nation controls the world's money, and, in its hubris, believes itself invincible. King Philip II, whose reign spanned from 1556 to 1598, commanded more wealth than any monarch in history, which he channeled into imperial expansion. Phase 1. The burden of global reach. Spain waged simultaneous wars across multiple theaters, against the Ottoman Empire in the Mediterranean, against France and Italian states, against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands. against the English Navy and campaigns in the Philippines and the Americas. By 1580, Spain maintained military commitments across 4 continents. The financial strain was staggering. Over half of Spain's national revenue was consumed by military expenditures. Even this proved insufficient. Phase 2, the debasement of value. The Spanish crown found itself unable to fund its commitments solely through taxation. Its response was the classic act of a failing empire: currency debasement. Copper was introduced into silver coinage. A coin originally specified as pure silver first contained 50% copper, then 75%. While the nominal face value remained, the intrinsic worth plummeted. By 1600, Spanish silver coins held barely any silver. Merchants ceased accepting them at face value, and inflation spiraled out of control. Phase 3, the debt vortex. Spain embarked on a perpetual borrowing spree, securing loans from Italian, German, and any available bankers. By 1557, less than 2 decades into Philip's rule, Spain declared national bankruptcy. It defaulted on its debts, restructured, and resumed borrowing. Bankruptcies were declared again in 1560, then in 1575, and a 4th time in 1596. 4 sovereign defaults in 40 years. Each instance was accompanied by promises of reform, each followed by a return to profligate borrowing and spending. Phase 4, the erosion of production. A crucial element of Spain's collapse, often overlooked, is this: the abundance of gold and silver ultimately destroyed it. When a nation perceives itself to possess unlimited wealth, its incentive for production atrophies. Why cultivate food when it can be imported? Why construct ships when they can be purchased? Why innovate when mere spending suffices? Spanish nobility considered productive labor beneath their station. Domestic manufacturing waned. Agriculture stagnated. All the incoming wealth flowed directly outwards to finance imports: French wine, Italian silk, Dutch goods. Spain became a mere conduit. Wealth traversed its borders but never accumulated within. By 1600, Spain produced almost nothing. Entirely dependent on imports, entirely reliant on silver to purchase its existence. When the American silver mines began to deplete, when production volumes dropped, the entire elaborate system imploded. Phase 5, social atrophy. As the economy crumbled, crime rates soared. Beggars filled the streets of Madrid. Productive citizens emigrated. The nation's intellectual capital migrated to France, England, and the Netherlands, countries focused on building, creating, and expanding. Spain was left with a bureaucracy, a standing army, and a clergy. Few generating wealth, many consuming it. By 1640, Portugal broke free. By 1650, the Netherlands, Spain's wealthiest territory, was lost. By 1700, the Spanish Empire was a hollow edifice, vast on paper but economically moribund. In under a century, it transitioned from global superpower to secondary power, a decline from which it never recovered. Modern Spain is a regional European nation, charming, cultured, but geopolitically insignificant. The descendants of the conquistadors now welcome tourists. This is the stark reality of imperial collapse. Fast forward 3 centuries. The British Empire, at its zenith, commanded a quarter of the world's landmass and governed 400 million subjects. The pound sterling was the bedrock of global finance. Every major trade agreement was denominated in pounds, and every central bank held British bonds. London stood as the undisputed financial capital of the world. Like Spain before it, Britain succumbed to the illusion of permanence, but the pattern was already manifesting. Phase 1. The strain of global hegemony. By 1900, Britain's military commitments spanned the globe: India, Africa, the Middle East, China, the Pacific, the Caribbean. It was compelled to defend territories on 6 continents. The fiscal burden was immense. When World War I erupted in 1914, Britain faced a stark choice: maintain neutrality and risk Europe's self-destruction, or intervene, potentially bankrupting the empire to secure victory. It chose intervention. The Great War cost Britain over $40 billion, equivalent to $1 trillion in contemporary currency. It borrowed extensively, primarily from the United States. By 1918, Britain was indebted to America by billions. The former creditor had become the debtor. Yet, the war was won. the empire remained intact. They believed a new era of rebuilding could begin. They were tragically mistaken. Phase 2. The pound's erosion. The pound sterling was theoretically backed by gold, but the war had critically depleted Britain's reserves. Gold had been shipped to America to finance armaments, provisions, and supplies. By 1920, Britain's gold holdings were halved from their 1914 levels. Nevertheless, a desperate effort was made to uphold the pound's value. Britain returned to the gold standard in 1925 at its pre-war parity. The critical flaw: the pound was fundamentally overvalued. British exports became prohibitively expensive. Manufacturing declined. Unemployment surged, and the government was forced to maintain high interest rates to defend the currency's peg. This policy devastated the domestic economy. By 1931, the pretense could no longer be maintained. Britain abandoned the gold standard. The pound lost a quarter of its value overnight. The global reserve currency had publicly admitted its inability to honor its commitments. Phase 3. Perpetual debt. Britain never truly recovered from the financial burden of World War I. Then World War II began. Another $120 billion in expenses. More extensive borrowing from America. By 1945, Britain owed the United States and Canada over $30 billion, exceeding Britain's entire GDP. The war was won, but the empire was irrevocably broken. It could no longer be defended, afforded, or maintained. Phase 4. The dissolution of empire. In 1947, Britain relinquished India, the crown jewel and source of wealth for 2 centuries. Over the subsequent 2 decades, every remaining territory was lost. Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, the Caribbean. By 1970, the British Empire existed solely within the annals of history. Phase 5. Currency collapse. The pound continued its decline. In 1940, £1 equaled $4.03. By 1950, it was $2.80. By 1970, $2.40. By 1980, $2.30. Today, it hovers around $1.27. The global reserve currency was relegated to a regional one. Britain attempted to maintain the illusion. A permanent seat on the UN Security Council, nuclear weapons, a special relationship with America. But the truth was undeniable. It was a former power, a living museum of past greatness. The empire had vanished, and it would never return. Following World War II, the USSR emerged as an unparalleled superpower. Nuclear arsenals, a formidable military dominion over Eastern Europe, and a formidable space program. They believed they represented the future. Communism, they declared, would bury capitalism. The Soviet model would prevail. For 45 years, it rivaled America, matching military might, producing tanks, missiles, and troops. But beneath this imposing exterior, the economy was in terminal decline. Phase 1. Unsustainable military expenditure. The Soviet Union allocated an astonishing 15 to 20% of its GDP to its military, triple the proportion spent by the United States. It strove to match American technology, global reach, and alliance networks. Yet, its economy was a mere fraction of America's. Interventions in Afghanistan, propping up Cuba, supporting Syria, Vietnam, North Korea, Angola, Ethiopia, wherever American influence extended, the Soviets felt compelled to counter it. The cost was simply unsustainable. Phase 2. Economic stagnation. The Soviet economy ceased to grow in the 1970s. Oil revenue provided a temporary lifeline, but other sectors failed. Factories produced inferior goods. Collective farms were unproductive. Technological progress lagged decades behind the West. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union, possessing some of the planet's most fertile agricultural land, was importing grain. The fundamental reason: central planning inhibits genuine innovation and stifles incentive, leading to a profound absence of productive output. Phase 3. The ruble's irrelevance. The ruble was never a genuine, convertible currency. It could not be exchanged internationally. Even Soviet citizens distrusted it, preferring US dollars whenever available. The government was forced to purchase foreign goods using gold and oil, as no nation desired rubles. By 1985, global oil prices declined, and Soviet gold reserves rapidly depleted. The nation was running out of convertible currency. Phase 4. Loss of the satellite empire. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. Eastern Europe rapidly detached itself. Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, East Germany all vanished within a single year. The strategic buffer states that provided the Soviet Union with crucial depth evaporated. The Soviet government was powerless to stop it. It was financially depleted. Phase 5. Absolute collapse. On December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. 900 days from the fall of the Berlin Wall to complete dissolution. No war, no invasion, merely economic implosion. The military could no longer be funded. The government became dysfunctional. The ruble rendered worthless. A superpower wielding 30,000 nuclear weapons collapsed due to internal economic failure. The pattern had reasserted itself. Overextension, currency failure, debt, loss of empire, ultimate collapse. And this is the insight that should disrupt your sleep. The United States is meticulously following this same pattern. Stage by stage, let the evidence speak. Phase 1. Global military overextension. Confirmed. The United States maintains over 750 military installations in 80 countries. Our troops are deployed in 150 nations. We are obligated to defend Europe through NATO, to secure Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, to engage in conflicts across the Middle East, and to counter both China and Russia. Our annual military budget stands at $850 billion, exceeding the combined spending of the next 10 nations. And still, it is deemed insufficient. Our forces are stretched thin. Equipment is aging. Recruitment is declining. We hold commitments we cannot realistically fulfill. Should China invade Taiwan? Should Russia advance into NATO territory? Should Iran close the Persian Gulf? We cannot respond effectively to all contingencies simultaneously. We are overextended, just like Spain, just like Britain, just like the USSR. Phase 2, currency debasement. Confirmed. In 1971, Nixon severed the dollar's link to gold, initiating its journey as a pure fiat currency. Since 2000, the U.S. money supply has expanded by 400%. Since 2020 alone, over $6 trillion has been created. The dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power since 1971. We are not blending copper into silver coins. We are simply creating unlimited paper. The mechanism differs. The consequence is identical. Debasement. Phase 3, the debt spiral. Confirmed. The United States accrues a national debt of $36 trillion, representing 120% of GDP. Interest payments alone are now nearing $1 trillion annually. We are spending more on servicing debt than on national defense. We incur deficits every year, $1.8 trillion in 2024, during a period of economic growth and relative peace. We borrow to pay interest on prior borrowing. This is the unequivocal definition of a debt spiral. Spain defaulted 4 times. Britain borrowed until its empire fragmented. The USSR simply ran out of funds. We are on the same trajectory. Phase 4, erosion of productive capacity. Confirmed. America no longer manufactures on a broad scale. We design, we finance, we consume, but our foundational productive output has been hollowed out. Our manufacturing base has been relocated to China, Mexico, Vietnam. We import $800 billion more than we export each year. We are critically dependent on foreign supply chains for everything: pharmaceuticals, electronics, steel, even components essential for our military. Just as Spain became reliant on imports while its silver flowed outwards, we are reliant on imports while our dollars circulate globally. And just like Spain, when that flow of capital is disrupted, our vulnerability will become acute. Phase 5, social atrophy. Confirmed. Trust in public institutions has reached unprecedented lows. Crime rates are escalating. Homelessness is proliferating. Drug overdoses claim over 100,000 American lives annually. The most capable individuals are either emigrating or disengaging. Fertility rates are collapsing. Political functionality is non-existent. We are incapable of achieving consensus, of fixing systemic issues, of constructing anything enduring. The indicators of decay are pervasive. Yet a collective delusion persists that all is well. It is not well. We stand at Phase 5 of 7. The Soviet Union reached Phase 5 before its total dissolution. Britain did as well. Spain endured longer, but the pattern remained consistent. We are not at the conclusion, but we are profoundly deep within the sequence. Phase 6. Loss of reserve currency status. This is the juncture when allies begin to diversify their holdings, when international trade shifts to alternative currencies, when the dollar, once universally sought, floods back into the domestic economy because no one outside our borders needs to retain it. We are observing the nascent tremors. BRICS nations are developing alternatives. Central banks are aggressively acquiring gold. China and Russia are conducting trade in yuan and rubles. Saudi Arabia has accepted yuan for oil transactions. The fissures are becoming visible. Phase 7. Absolute collapse. This is not a gentle decline. It is a sudden implosion. The Soviet Union transitioned from superpower to non-existent entity in 900 days. Britain lost its empire within 2 decades. Spain's unraveling took longer. But the outcome was identical. When the reserve currency fails, when national debt becomes unmanageable, when the military can no longer be funded, the system does not gracefully recede. It collapses swiftly, brutally. And every individual who believed it couldn't happen here learns the same harsh lesson. Every empire has learned it can, and it does. 3 empires succumbed to this pattern: Spain, Britain, the USSR. Each convinced itself of its exceptionalism. Each believed itself distinct. Each was certain the rules did not apply. Each was proven wrong. Every single time. We are currently repeating these same self-deceptions. We are different. We possess superior technology. We have the dollar. We are America. But the pattern is indifferent to exceptionalism. The pattern is mathematical. You cannot perpetually spend beyond your means. You cannot maintain an empire without a productive economic base. You cannot debase your currency without severe consequences. You cannot avoid phases 6 and 7 once phases 1 through 5 have been completed. The sequence is locked. The only remaining variable is time. Perhaps 10 years, perhaps 5, perhaps less, but the pattern unequivocally indicates collapse. And when it arrives, it will not be gradual, it will be sudden. A currency crisis triggering a debt crisis, triggering a political crisis. Overnight, the superpower becomes a cautionary tale. The reserve currency becomes a regional currency. The empire becomes a fading memory. 3 times it has happened before. The pattern dictates we are next. Since 2020, every stage has accelerated. More money printed, more debt accumulated, military commitments expanded, productive capacity hollowed out, society fractured. We are no longer merely traversing this path. We are sprinting down it. And the inevitable conclusion is visible for those who understand the pattern. Perhaps a way out exists. Perhaps America can accomplish what Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union could not. Perhaps we will reform, rebuild, restore. Perhaps this time truly is different. But the pattern suggests otherwise. The cold mathematics argues otherwise. And history, which has observed empires perish in the same manner, repeatedly, implies we are about to learn this lesson in the hardest possible way. If this revelation has clarified our position within this historical sequence, consider subscribing, because when we reach phases 6 and 7, understanding what occurred and why will be paramount. The answers are not hidden in the future. They are meticulously documented in the past. And I will show you precisely